All right, everybody, it's the Arty 84 show live here on Facebook and around the world. And if you listen to us on Podbean, iTunes, Spotify, or watching us, for that matter, on YouTube, this is the Arty 84 show, and this is episode 146. 146. I love 6 is what it breaks down to. As always, below me we have Adam, the Mallett.
Hey.
And above him is Mr. Ryan Glover. No relation to Danny. And Ryan, we have a special guest tonight on the first part of the show. Who do we have?
Sean XLG Mitchell is the creator of adult contemporary rap, Hip Hop for the Mature Crowd. He's the author of the best-selling book, Hop Hooray, celebrating 30 years of rap music, and is the first rapper to win a national music competition. Sean is considered by some to be the greatest rapper of all time because of his unique skills and creative style. His new book is called Make America Hate Again.
Nice. Make America Hate Again. That's very unique. Especially what's going on.
We're going to get dark today.
By the way, if you're just tuning in, this is a special 3-hour episode. We're going to be splitting this up on the iTunes and the YouTube, by the way. But so if you're tuning in at like 9:30 at night and you see we're still alive, trust me, we're going. It's a marathon. We're going to do this. But Sean, thank you very much for joining us tonight. Where are you joining us from, actually?
From the DMV area, right outside of Washington, D.C.
Nice. The Beltway to the people.
Yeah, exactly.
I spent 7 months living down there. I was in Maryland, outside of Silver Spring, Maryland, actually, right outside of D.C. And
okay.
It had to be the hottest fucking summer in the history of D.C. It was probably every day was like 96 and muggy. You couldn't even go outside. It was unbearable.
Yeah, it's been like that.
Yeah. It's like a big swamp. They decided to build the capital city of the country in a giant swamp, and just the humidity is absolutely ridiculous.
It is, yeah. See, a lot of people don't know that.
Yeah.
But
No.
yeah, this area was a huge swamp.
Mm-hmm. It's a rude awakening your first summer down there when you're sitting there and you're like, oh, it's going to be beautiful. I can go walk the monuments and stuff, because I wasn't working at the time, so I was going to take advantage of all this time I had. And after like the first week of like dying, I was like, I'm all set. I was going to sit in my air conditioned apartment and just chill, watch Office. The Office. So are you from DMV down there originally?
Yeah, between here, I was bouncing back and forth between here and North Carolina, actually.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. I actually got my start in doing music in North Carolina, actually.
Okay. So you're a Southern boy.
Yeah, I have some of those roots.
There you go.
Yeah.
What part of North Carolina?
Well, my father was in the military, so that tells you right there. I was
Fayetteville?
right outside of Fort Bragg. Is where I grew up.
Okay.
But I was going back and forth between here and there.
Okay.
So, yeah.
That's Fayetteville, right?
Yes,
Oh,
exactly.
I get some.
And then in the Landover area
Okay.
is where I started growing up in the DMV area.
So the Landover area, I was there last fall. That's where the good old, I don't know what you call your football team these days, the football team of Washington. That's where they play, right?
Yeah, just the Washington team,
Yeah. Are you a big football fan?
Absolutely, but I'm not a fan of Washington, though.
Okay.
I'm actually a Cowboys fan, believe it or not.
There's a lot of Cowboys fans around this country, especially people who don't live in. My uncle's a Cowboys fan. He grew up in New England, so they were good in the '90s. You know, what can you say? You had Dion, you had Emmett. I mean, you're the best team. I would say the second best team ever, next to the Patriots. But I mean, I was just a little biased right there. But there's a hell of a Dallas team they had for years. Aikman, Jesus Christ, how could you? Michael Irvin. Yeah, I mean.
Yeah, Emmett Smith. Yeah, Troy Aikman. Yeah, those were the guys.
Yeah. I
can notice when one of them was out, though, they'd lose. Like, you had Aikman, Emmett, and Michael Irvin. If one of them wasn't playing, it was a loss. Like, all three of them had to be out there. It was like...
Yeah, but you know what? Dallas was so good. It's so many people. It's funny that you grew up in Washington. You're a Dallas fan because it's a huge rival anyways. But I remember thinking back of that Super Bowl where the Washington Redskins played the Bills. I think that was the missed kick game, wasn't it? It's how the Bills ended up losing the Super Bowl because it was like a shank kick to the right or something like that.
Yeah, but yeah, they lost like 4 in a row.
Oh yeah,
I think
they were not good. They lost 2 against the boys, And then one against the Skins and the other against the Giants, I believe.
Exactly. Yeah.
The NFC East beat the Yeah. I actually I despise the Buffalo Bills. In fact, I actually own a piece of the turf from their stadium when they renovated it over the summer.
Oh, wow.
Purely for the fact that Tom Brady may have sweat on it. That's really the only reason. So
you're a big Brady fan, huh?
I was a big Brady fan until he abandoned us like a absentee father and decided to go with his new girlfriend. So, you know, I have a little resentment.
I mean, you can't take away what he did for us. So it's like,
yeah. Well, when Dad goes to the grocery store to get milk, you can't take away for the first 10 years of his life when he disappears to his new hot girlfriend who lives in Florida, who likes to do wild things that Mom didn't do, right?
It's just sports, man. It's not fucking.
That's the way I look at it.
Sports life. Sports.
Well, we all seen what life's like without sports, and it's absolutely miserable at times. So
that's true.
So now you know. So how things down in the DMV during COVID?
Oh, it's crazy. You can go walk through the city and not see anyone on an entire block. So
yeah,
that's definitely something that's different. It's usually overcrowded with people on every street corner. Yeah,
it's like a movie set sometimes, right? When you walk down there, it's like they blocked everything off to film.
Yeah, everyone's walking on the scooters, flying down the streets.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's a little bit different now.
Kind of reminds me of what's that movie? It was The Purge when they shut everything down for like the night.
Oh, yeah, 24 hours to kill anybody you want. Yeah.
It's kind of creepy. It's like you're afraid to go out there because you know what's going on.
We're not far from that. Yeah,
we're close.
I might kind of be for it. Yeah. I don't know.
I'm gonna tell you, if there's a purge, you can find me in my bunker. I'm gonna be down there at least for 3 months, ready to go. I'm in the middle of nowhere, so no one's gonna find me for a while. So I'll come out when the lights are out. But yeah, I mean, the quarantine's been kind of crazy. We've been doing the show. We used to do the show live together as a group, and now we're been doing this for since March, right? So it's been a while.
Oh, wow.
But
so everyone, gotta use alternative methods now. Yeah.
You know what? It's a little more convenient when you think about it too, because like I'm not wearing pants right now. So, but you would never know that. I would have to wear pants when, if I would see Adam and Ryan. So it's very more comfortable for me. So, this is your pluses and minuses.
Hey, Sean, I got a question. So I was reading the first rapper to win a national music competition.
Yes, that's correct.
That is insanely awesome. But I just want to know more about that.
Yeah,
like,
tell
what
us about
year
that.
was it?
Yeah.
Like, what took place during this competition? How many people were there? Like, that's a big deal. That's awesome.
Yeah, well, thanks. It was a national competition. It was actually done over the radio. There was a radio show aired out from California called Radio Scope, and this was in 1990. So at that time, I don't know if you're familiar with Stacey Lattisaw, the R&B singer.
I'm not familiar. I know the name, but I couldn't tell you.
That was my nickname in high school.
Johnny Gill, but she has a studio up in the Fort Washington area, up here in the DMV. So came up, I had this song written. Got my cousin to play this role with me in this song. So we did this comical rap called The Johnsons. So I did it, went back home, and I listened to it. I was like, wow. So Radio Scope is doing this national music competition where the fans who listen to the songs, they call in and vote. Mm-hmm. So if you win 4 times, you win a record deal with Motown Records. They were sponsoring contests.
That's a hell of a prize. That's pretty big deal. Man. I'd be sweating. That's crazy.
Yeah, but the crazy thing is, I won it 3 times, and before the 4th time, they stopped the contest. So I get a letter in the mail saying that they've stopped the contest. And I'm like 1 win away from a record deal with Motown.
Oh,
so you're talking about the worst
bullshit.
Oh man, I could have been kicking and punching holes in the wall, man.
What a bunch of assholes. That's
sucks.
Horrible.
What year was that?
This was in 1990, actually.
Damn.
Yeah.
1990.
Yeah. And Stacey Lattisaw's, I think he was her husband. He actually did the production for me on the song. So
that's
it. But it did, very well over the air, playing in the different cities. They would play. It's kind of like American Idol, where you will come, music would play in all the major cities, and then people would just call in and vote for the best song. So yeah, that's actually what happened. But it was a comical rap record.
Yeah.
And if you go back into the 80s, a lot of artists were doing comical style rap records. If you go back to like the Treacherous 3 were very popular for doing their Santa's rap in the movie Beat Street.
Okay.
So you had groups like, I don't know if you guys are familiar with old school hip hop, but you had artists like Houdini. They did Big Mouth. So you had Dougie Fresh and Slick Rick doing Lottie Dottie.
Yep.
So.
And then as the 90s went on, and I remember the whole East Coast, West Coast rivalry that had to heat it up. And you had to be following, like everyone was following that. Like I like the West Coast. I was more of a West Coast person than the East Coast.
Okay.
West Side.
But it was like it was an amazing time. I mean, it was a violent time, but it was definitely in terms of music and hip hop, it was definitely a pivotal time,
Absolutely.
Yeah.
I love that era.
The rapping dude.
Oh, yeah. You remember him? Yeah. Yeah, rapping dude. In fact, he was one of the artists that used to tour on the Fresh Fest. When the Fresh Fest came out around 1985, it was like Run DMC, the Fat Boys, Houdini, Curtis Blow, Grandmaster Flash, and they would pick up different artists in different cities. So you may have had what was the group that did the their name escapes me at the moment, but I know that they were a part of I know UTFO did a couple of dates. Sean Brown, which I think was the rapping dude, he joined them on some dates on the Fresh Fest tour. And but yeah, that was a great time in hip hop. You had a diversity in terms of how the music was being done. So
they're from Brooklyn, right? UTFO, they're Brooklyn. Are they from Brooklyn? That sounds familiar. UTFO, they were from Brooklyn, right?
Yeah, UTFO was from Brooklyn.
Yeah, okay.
UTFO, Houdini, they were all from Brooklyn. And then after you get past the Fresh Fest era, you get into the what some would call the lyrical era, where you had like Big Daddy Kane, and then you had like Rakim, and then you had Cool G Rap. So you had a lot of artists that were coming out that were very lyrical at that time frame. So by the time you get to the 90s, like you were saying, it sort of had a paradigm shift where hip hop went more into the gangster style of LA West Coast type of hip hop, and that began to take over the whole music scene back in the 90s.
Oh yeah,
right.
Good night, hanging people off balconies and.
Hey, listen, you gotta do what you gotta do. Who
would you consider most influential to you, though?
Oh wow, there was a lot. Well, you know what? There was 3 main artists that I really looked up to and learned from. And number one would have to be Grandmaster Melly Mel of the Furious 5. So he's the one that laid it down. When you listen to the song, The Message, Don't Push Me because I'm close to the edge. Mm-hmm. I'm trying not to lose my head. It's like a jungle sometimes. It makes me wonder how I keep on going.
Yeah.
Mace did that too a little bit in the remix.
Melly Mel is Melly Mel was the first rapper, actually. He was the first MC in hip hop, period. That came in, created the rhyme scheme. So Melly Mel was like the top dog. If you ask anyone who was involved in hip hop from 77 up to 1984, Melly Mel is the top dog in hip hop at that time. For those 7 years, he was untouchable. So Melly Mel, Kumo D of the Treacherous 3, and believe it or not, Jalil of Houdini, which strikes a lot of people being strange when I mention Houdini.
Yeah.
But Houdini were the first artists that actually created, and this is going to sound funny, but they actually created the parameters or the guideline for songwriting. And a lot of rappers, even to this day, a lot of rappers don't understand songwriting. Yeah. So you can actually listen to the radio and you can listen to an artist and you can, well, at least I can listen to an artist and I'm like, okay, they really don't understand songwriting. Mm-hmm. Because songwriting actually starts with subject matter. And a lot of artists don't really understand that.
They don't.
Nope.
Yeah, it starts with subject matter. And after you get through the subject matter, you break a song down into the introduction, the body, and the conclusion. So a lot of artists don't really understand that dynamic when it comes to songwriting. They don't understand how you do 16 bars in a verse and that type of thing. But there's a lot of the technical aspects of hip hop that a lot of artists don't really know. Sad to say.
And it's music in general too, because you can listen to like some songs out there, and I play like 5 different instruments, but so I was playing instruments since I was a kid, so you know how to set songs up. And like you said, you know, you get the music, you get the harmony, you get the rhythm, you get the beat, and then on top of that, then you get the lyrics. But your lyrics gotta make sense. You gotta tell a story, like you said. You gotta have a start, a beginning, and end. So a lot of these people out there just saying shit. Like a lot of the rap songs, I feel like lost a lot of like of the body of it, like the 90s rap, right? So you hear these and they're like, I got a car, I got a gun, I gotta go to the store. Like it's like they're very schizophrenic. They're ADD. They're not sure what to do.
Right, exactly. Yeah, you go back and you listen to some of the songs that you can hear them actually. A lot of their lyrical content is not congruent. Mm-hmm. So you hear them talk about one subject and then they'll jump to another subject, then they'll jump to something else, because they don't really understand that it's all supposed to flow and it's supposed to be congruent when you're doing lyrics. But you know,
in theory,
that's the technical aspect of it.
You get that new Cardi B song where she just talks about all the ways she wants to be banged, which I guess in a sense has a sense of like, oh, right, well, we're keeping the subject matter to one particular thing, and now she's just going around the bush, you know what I mean? So, no pun intended. But
a lot of it too, it's fascinating too in hip hop in general, how a lot of it is just kind of marketing. Like you look at like people, like some of these guys are actually, pretty smart. Like it was kind of just an act, like to be gangsta. Like Dr. Dre wasn't really gangsta. Tupac Shakur went to art school. Like some of these guys, it was just trying to play to the masses and just trying to capitalize or trying to be part of a musical movement that was kind of perpetuated, but like not real.
Yeah,
you know what I mean? It was just
absolutely. Yeah, and I've heard stories about a lot of those guys that you just mentioned, and but like you were saying, a lot of it is theatrics, a lot of it is Hollywood. Some people who come across as one way are not necessarily like that, So yeah, there's a lot of that in the music industry.
It's like the WWE, right? Everyone has a persona, and they put on a whole thing around it, right? It's a whole development.
Different persona. They come out. And it actually sells.
It does.
It builds up the hype and all the intensity involved in it. So it actually, and I guess for a lot of labels or whatever, the bottom line is your sales. And so, from an artistic point of view, some guys might shake their head and be like, okay, they really, really don't have the technical aspects of the game, but they can sell it. They can come out in front of the camera, they can say this or say that, look a certain way or whatever, and they can sell it.
Yeah. I want to go back a little bit to 1990 when you're on the radio as a now this is before AOL, this is before the internet, this is before social media. So there's no way for you, like nowadays, if this was a contest, you could go on into Facebook or whatever and just start sharing your links to your songs, and everyone in the world can have an opportunity to hear it. But in 1990, you don't. You're kind of isolated to your own little bubble wherever you are, right? But you're getting the opportunity. They're playing your song around the country on radio stations. That's like the modern day like chat room right there, right? Because you wouldn't have that opportunity.
Exactly.
It was like a pioneer. Like, so that must have been crazy. So, but what do you give a phone number to get feedback? Because there's no email, there's no like, you know what I mean? Well, give me a call if you like the song, and then it's a long distance call, right? You have to call collect because they didn't have like cell phones back then. I can't wrap my mind around that situation.
The show was and kind of like you were saying, I think it was one of the first syndicated radio shows that were out there.
Okay.
If you go back into like the 80s, you had like Tom Joyner, you had some of those DJs that had syndicated radio shows. So, but by the time you get to 1990, with Radio Scope, it was one of those syndicated radio shows. But I think they were the first ones, to my knowledge, that actually did a contest.
Okay.
Yeah, where they were playing your songs all over the country in the biggest cities everywhere, and then everyone would call in to vote. And so what they would do, they would notify everyone by letter that you
Oh,
actually
wow.
won the contest. Yeah.
So like 3
So
weeks
you
later,
went
you get
around
it.
for sale mail.
You're sitting
We
there.
were running around going up to the mailbox.
Right.
Hey,
You're
did
like,
Radio Scope let it come through? So, it was one of those kind of things, man.
I hope they got the right
It's kinda
address.
crazy, yeah.
It's like sitting there for your tax return. You wait, like, oh, the check should be here any day now. 2 weeks, 3 weeks later, I'm just waiting.
Right.
When's this check coming in?
Yeah, that was old school. Like you said, that was before you had all of the social media outlets, like the Facebook and all of that going on. So yeah, it's a crazy time. It's almost like if you leave your house today and you leave your cell phone, you feel naked for the whole day. You're like, wow. You don't have your phone with you, and you can't wrap your mind around the idea of not having your phone with you. Yeah.
Like how the biddy's gonna contact me. That's what I always think. You know what I mean? They have a smoke signal over the fucking mountain. That's how they want me to know I want to come over. When you look at it, it's like you need your cell phone, your wallet, your keys, and your face condom now. Now you need 4 things. So make sure you get that face condom on because no, that's actually pretty cool. I think a lot of people take for granted the social media and that opportunity, because if you think back to just go back into a time machine like 14 years ago to 2006 rather, where MySpace started coming out. I think it was like 2005, 2006, and that kind of launched some people a little more advanced, because before that there was not. You have AOL, but it wasn't really like a place where you could put your stuff where people could see. And then you get MySpace, and you could have SoundCloud was part of that, so you could be like, all right, now you can start laying down beats and songs and stuff, and people could download it and people could hear it, which was unheard of prior to that, other than contests such as the one you were in, which took probably lots of money, lots of time, lots of organization. Now some kid in a basement in Detroit can go and lay down a few tracks, and the entire world can hear it by 24 hours later.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, things were a lot different. We were going into, back then when you went into studios, like the very first studio I went into was like a professional studio. Mm-hmm. But after that experience, you're going into studios where people have, their basements converted into studios.
Like
you had guys, they would come in and they would program the drum machine, and then they would get on the keyboard and they would play a bass and all of that, and they would loop it all together. Mm-hmm. So it was a whole different time frame and experience during that period of time. Yeah.
And nowadays someone could be laying a beat in LA, you could be rapping in Michigan, and then someone could be playing the harmonies in Florida, and they mix it all together in the internet and you're done.
Yeah Imagine that. I mean, that would have been ideal too for me, back in the day, because when you're growing up, you're kind of limited with your resources and all of that, and it really, really opens up a lot of doors for artists coming up in today's game, where they can do that and they can release their music and they can have it everywhere. You got Spotify, so. Yeah, it's a game changer, absolutely.
And there was no Craigslist, so you couldn't find people. So if you wanted to find someone to jam with or to collaborate with, or someone who wanted to lay down, but you couldn't find people to piece together to make a masterpiece. You had to literally go down to my cousin Joe knows a guy who plays the drums. He could come over, and then I got a kid I graduated middle school with who plays the keyboard. But that's all you had. You were as close to as many people as which is now. Now, going back to 1990 and experiencing it then, and then now living in society, do you have an appreciation for what you had to do in the past, or do you feel like the kids these days don't know what it really takes to kind of be successful because they get it so easy these days?
I would probably say both. I would say a little bit of both. It definitely makes me appreciate my experience, because and when you're young and you're going through it, you don't realize that one day all of this is going to be gone, and something completely different is going to take over. So you're not even thinking along those lines. You're just thinking, okay, let me get in the studio, I want to put down a hit, and and then at that time, guys were sending out demos. Everybody was sending demo tapes out to record labels and trying to get a deal like that. Versus today, young guys, and I actually appreciate what the young generation are doing too, because they're taking advantage of the opportunities that they have So they're starting their own labels and they're releasing their own music and they're taking control of their own masters and things that a lot of artists, you know, back in the 80s and 90s didn't really do. And a lot of them are, you know, financially, they're not, you know, they're pretty much in rough areas right now financially because of not being able to take advantage of those opportunities.
And it's like the record companies, they fully take advantage of you, right? So if you're a young and up and coming guy, you know, maybe 10 years ago, you know, you are limited to what they give you. They give you a cash advance. They go, all right, you need to release this many albums or whatever like this, and you got to do all this stuff, and then you have a laundry list. So you're working like a hog for the next 5 years. Nowadays, like you said, you could just launch your own record deal and be like, listen, and you can put your own stuff on iTunes without having to go into a third party. You literally can control your destiny and get all. And the record companies must be fucking hating this because this is really putting a dent in their income and taking advantage of young kids like they've had in the past and pretty much like manipulate them, steal all their rights to songs, and then kind of kick them onto the curb and like see you later. You know what I mean?
Yeah, absolutely. You know, it's funny that you mentioned that because earlier today, I was actually just thinking about the idea that someone should make a movie about Sugar Hill Records because they were the first hip hop label in rap music. And so Sugar Hill, the whole story, if you go back to like Sylvia Robinson, she was an R&B singer herself, and she made a hit record in the early 70s called Pillow Talk. And she started a different label in the mid 70s, and by 79 she wanted to sign a rap group, you know, to Sugar Hill Records. And so they went out and they put together the members of the Sugar Hill Gang, which came out with the classic rappers like the hip hop, the hip hop, you don't stop the rock. So but that whole story, if you listen to some of the stories that the artists who were involved with Sugar Hill, you hear some of the stories about their experiences. You're like, wow, someone needs to make a movie out of this.
They didn't even write that song, did they?
No, it's a sample. It's a sample of a disco song.
No, but like the lyrics to the I was watching like a documentary, and I think like I saw an interview previously. I think like I want to say Grandmaster Cass like wrote like the lyrics and stuff, everything to like part of that song. If I'm not.
Yes, you're 100% correct. If as far as the lyrics are concerned, Wonder Mike had his own lyrics, Master G had his own lyrics, but Big Bang Hank wasn't a rapper.
Right.
A lot of people don't know that, but Big Bang Hank was a bouncer at a club called the Sparkle, where Grandmaster Cass used to perform at. And so when Sylvia was putting together these rappers to come together to make this record, they didn't know that Big Bang Hank was actually doing Grandmaster Cass's rhymes. So, and if you listen to his rhymes, and he actually says Grandmaster Cass's name.
Right.
Okay.
Yeah, and that kind of, and it's funny too because Cass couldn't sue, for royalty rights or whatever because there was no copyright on his material. So, which is real crazy, back in it, but no one was thinking along those lines, that people are going to make records, it's going to sell 10 million copies worldwide.
Yeah.
They're going to make, millions of dollars, or at least the label made millions of dollars off of the record. No one was really thinking about it at that time. But someone needs to make a movie out of it because that entire experience was crazy. I
mean, we all went over a friend's house to eat, and the food was no good. We've all done that. And it's the one thing we always can remember. It's the way it was, So, Sharp, I have a little cousin who's really good at making beats, right? He's like 18 years old. No, he's 17. How old is he? 17. So he say 17 years old. He's still in high school. He's a senior. And so my aunt's watching. He wants to know, what should he do? I think he has beats on SoundCloud. He's actually sold a few to people. What would you do if you're a 17-year-old kid these days laying down good? And the beats are pretty good too. Like who do you contact? What's your avenues, and how do you not get screwed?
Wow, that's a great question because now everyone is taking advantage of the social media outlets. So I would say the first thing is continue doing what he's doing. Continue making music, creating new music, and putting it out there and releasing it himself. And also, and to be honest with you, I'd love to hear a sample. If he can send me an email, I'd love to hear some of his music myself.
Okay. Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. Cool. But doing what he's doing, because that's the direction everything is moved into, is everyone is pretty much independent and in terms of their creating a brand. Everyone is doing it on their own now.
Mm-hmm.
So I would say continue doing what he's doing, but I would love to hear his music. I'm still doing a little bit of music with Charlie Prince of Rockmaster Scott and the Dynamic 3.
Okay.
They did the Roof is on Fire.
Yeah, yeah.
And the record Request Line back in 1984.
Damn.
So yes,
I will. I'll pass his information around to you. He's really good. Actually, I was down listening to him last year, and he's got the whole setup down there, and he loves it. It's what he wants to do. So, and it sounds really, really good. I was really impressed when I heard it too. I was like, damn. I'm like, where'd you learn how to do this shit? I was about to, but that's how it is these days.
Yeah, they're getting younger and more advanced technology. Technically more advanced than what we were at that age. I'm like, wow.
Yeah.
Now they can do things that just makes you like, wow, how did you do that?
Right.
So yeah, that's fantastic.
That's because I remember, like, I was a kid and my grandfather, I would program my grandfather's VCR for him, and he'd be like, wow, how did you do that? Right. And this is like 20 years ago. Now I go down and see one of my teenage cousins, and they're doing something like, wow, now I'm the old man. How did you do that? Like, how do you figure out how to do that? It's crazy how technology changes. But
yes, technology.
We want to talk about your book. I got to know about this because
I gotta say, with a title like "Make America Hate Again," I'm sure you must get some really nice people emailing you about how on the name and just how. Mm-hmm. Oh God, I can't imagine some of the hate mail you might get from some people.
Well, and the strange thing is that hip hop really led me into doing activism, and so it all started with hip hop. So if you go back and you listen to some of the rap records, when Public Enemy was doing anything, you had Chuck D, KRS One, Kumo D. They were all saying things that were socially relevant and conscious at the time. So I came up in that, in that era where I was like, oh wow. So now you're starting to look at life a little bit differently. You're getting older, and you're listening to the messages, the music, and it's sort of driving your energy into that arena. And so I became an activism based on hip hop. So the book, like you were saying, there's been some a lot of crazy feedback, man. Absolutely. Make America Hate Again. That's it's very popular though, man. I'm getting quite a bit of feedback from that particular book, but it really lays out the history of African Americans, and it highlights a lot of the issues and things that we've dealt with over the years, over the last century or so. Mm-hmm. And so it's one of those books where you're just trying to raise the consciousness of people and trying to get people to understand that when they say Black Lives Matter, there's some real truth to that, and there's a reason as to why it's being said. So if you go back through the history of Black America, and it leads up to this point where some people are saying make America great again. There's a lot of people who would take a different stance to that and say, well, make America hate again, because a lot of the issues that we thought we were moving away from have resurfaced. Mm-hmm. And so unfortunately, that's the climate that we're currently living in. But I think those of us who are responsible, socially responsible, we all have a responsibility to sort of step up and say something and try to make everything a little bit better, so we can work on race relations and we can come together in areas where we can come together and do things that can advance society.
Mm-hmm. I agree. I think we have to look at things now as, like, I get a little frustrated sometimes, not with Black Lives Matter, but like, we'll say like a fraction or a faction of small percentage of that group, because you like Black Lives Matter is fine, but you also have these extremists, and anybody who's extreme, anything, whether it's a soccer moms or Black Lives Matter can be kind of radical. And then when that happens, you have these people who think everything that's bad that's happening to them is just because they're black. And I've encountered that too. It's like, oh, you don't like me because I'm black. And I'm like, no, I don't like you because you're an asshole. Like, it's like, I don't care what color you are. You could be purple or green polka dots. I personally don't give a shit, but it's like sometimes these factions, these pockets of people create their own segregation. You know what I mean? So it's like, we got to stick together. We're black. But wait a second. Shouldn't we all be working together? So it creates this counterculture, and it goes back and forth. And it's frustrating to me just as a person who wants to get along with everybody. Like, why the fuck can't we all just get along? You know?
Like, exactly. You know? Perfectly put, you know.
A lot of it has to do with how people are raised, too. I say that 90% of how you act as an adult is how you were raised. And if you had a shitty upbringing, or you didn't have direction, whether it's from a family member or some kind of mentor to tell you how you should, act like a human, be nice to people, and all that stuff. It goes back to when you're a kid, right? When you're playing in a playpen, you're 4 years old. What does someone say to you? Play nice, right? Kids don't know color. Kids don't know race. Kids don't know that shit. All they want to know is their friend Bob down the street. They don't care about them. It's not until the things that are put in their minds from like other sources, adults, irresponsible adults who don't want to teach their kids the right way. I mean, that could all just be nipped in the ass right there as a young youth. If parents just said, hey, listen, this is like good people, hate bad people. And that's as simple as that. Color, race doesn't matter. You know what I mean? And I don't know. I think it's as simple as that.
It's sharing culture. That's what it has to be about. It has to be about sharing our cultures and not necessarily going in separate directions away. It's the only way it's going to work.
Mm-hmm.
Like, but
I think trying to get people trying to
I think your mic is cutting out. Can you hear him? I can't hear him.
I think.
Yeah, your microphone.
Hey, sorry, Sean. I think your mic's cutting out a little bit.
Oh no!
Do you hear? Sean, can you hear us? Modern technology.
Yeah, I sent him
a message. Okay.
On chat is like that his mic is out.
Yeah.
Of everything, but like I think, man, like we spend too much time arguing on social media and not enough time actually trying to solve problems. I think it would be better if we actually sat down and tried to focus on solving actual problems that could be fixed in the community, and stuff and everything. There's a lot of times, even like with Black Lives Matter, as far as like the narrative that they try to they try to push that police are killing African American men, and like that really isn't and stuff and everything like a factual thing. Like, even though there is police brutality and maybe sometimes the way that like some communities are policed, there's a problem with that. But like they're not actually focusing on solving those issues and stuff and everything, and they're just focused on taking like an instance that happens and blowing it up like that happens every day. But those instances are very rare in between.
And I do believe the media likes to play both sides off each other.
Oh, yeah.
They want those clashes. They want to create more racial issues because it makes a better story. I often wonder sometimes, some of these issues are definitely issues, but if the media didn't freaking get involved and put their own spin on it, would it be able to be solved better in some cases? You know what I mean? Like, the media just loves it. They love to throw like that little thing in there just to try to make it worse, whether it's true or not. You don't know. It's
right. Yeah, sometimes. In some cases, you can see how the media can blow things out of proportion and make things worse than what they really are.
Mm-hmm.
Just throw gas on it. Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, just think of you take away so just go to social media. This shit cesspool that is Facebook that we're live on right now. We're trying to use it for a good thing by entertaining people and just being informative about shit. But then you go at any given time, you go on someone's page, right? And all of a sudden, someone puts their opinion about something. Then you get 500 people that hate that opinion, right? There's so much hate, there's so much anger, right? It's like, but this wasn't around 10 years ago. Like, if you had a problem with someone, you go tell that person, right? You give them a call or you knock on their door and be like, hey, listen, I got a problem with you. And then you handle it as adults, or sometimes maybe it gets out of hand and then the police have to get involved. But nevertheless, your entire world didn't have to see the dirt you have with the guy who lives next door to you, right? Because you could do it privately. And like, it's not helpful. I don't think like I even try to put anything controversial on there because you may try to be putting your point across, right? But people will interpret it differently, and then it becomes like a shit show because then your real point has been lost in the mess. And like Adam had a good point. The news does the same exact thing. Because what they do is they like to stir up shit too. Because depending on what political party and what news channel it is, they like to stir up shit to make the extremists on one side really get rallied on the extremists on the other side. And at the end of the day, no one knows the facts, right? It's like watching a fiction movie. Like we don't know what the truth is. No one knows what the truth is. It's a fucking shame because it's like. I watch the news to get the news, right? I want to know if the house is on fire. I want to know if the store was robbed down the street. I just want to get factual information from my news. I don't give a shit about what, it's so fucking frustrating.
Yeah, you don't get any extra hype to it. Just get the story out the way, right? Yeah.
I don't watch the news to be entertained. There's some people that do. I watch news as like I wake up in the morning, I turn the news on. I get 15 minutes to see if there's a car accident on my way to work, what the weather's going to be, and if I should be concerned about some armed guy on the run. You know what I mean? That's all I want to know. I don't really need to know their perspective on life or what they think things should be like, right? I really don't give a shit. But... And to a point, I feel the same way about athletes and musicians and actors and stuff like that too. Like I like them, but I like them because of the art they do. I like what they produce for and I understand they're using their platform sometimes to help a cause, which is fine. But it's the ones that take it to the extreme level that really, I feel like dilute what they're actually trying to achieve. You know what I mean? I feel like the extreme. Actor or musician who goes out to the extra step instead of like being like, listen, this is what I support, you should listen to me, here's my ideas, where they start FUing people because of the way they do, and they're really, and that goes for anyone too. There's this lady I follow on Twitter, by the way, who I follow her just because I like to get enraged in the morning sometimes, and I've told that about her. She owns a restaurant in the north end of Boston. And she's an sideline reporter for the New York Yankees. And what she does is if someone leaves a bad review or has a negative comment about a restaurant, she will blast them on Twitter and call them a fucking asshole and pretty much. And it's so non-professional. If I owned the business, I would be so concerned that this would happen. You know what I mean? This broad don't give no fucks. And it's so entertaining, but it's so wrong. It's not the way to properly settle a situation. I've been always told, you go and be like, I'm sorry you had a bad experience. Come back. We'll buy you an appetizer. All this shit. No, go fuck yourself and your mother's a cunt. I don't want to hear those things when I'm trying to get my report across, but I don't know.
Sean, I'm curious, so, with a title, Make America Hate Again and all this, how do you feel this country needs to get back on track? What are your personal feelings? I want to read your book. I'm going to read your book. I'm always fascinated by,
Yeah. I think the country can get back on track by people coming together, sharing stories with each other, and tearing down the walls that divide us. You got to tear down the walls. And a lot of the walls that are standing are based on ignorance. Mm-hmm. And so we can tear down the walls and we can get together and we can share our stories and experiences. We can all come together at that point. And I think that's what we need to do.
I agree.
Yeah,
it's as easy as that, right? I mean, it's really that simple. If we just get our heads out of the gutter, you know what I mean? And I thought this generation of people growing up would have some smarts, but I feel like the message has been lost with the younger kids because there's so much delusion with the news channels and the hype and everything that the message is lost. And they see on the news something bad happened, so let's go rob a Target. Or something bad happened, let's go burn down a McDonald's, right? But that's not right. And the news shouldn't be glorifying that shit. The news should be saying, no, these aren't the people who are trying to do the right thing. These are people who are taking advantage of a situation to just be, crazy. Just to, they have issues, these people. You know what I mean? It's
right.
But,
absolutely.
So, I mean, like you said, the best thing is just to be educated, understand the situation. And I feel like, just open your mind to conversation, because if you can do that, I think that everyone can get along. And for God's sakes, fucking parents, raise your kids right. I'm sick and tired of brats and fucking pain in the ass. I'm not just for like racial issues or shit like that. There's a lot of bad kids out there whose parents just
in general, right?
Yeah, like about everything. And like just be a parent. Like I don't understand where that was lost. I just don't understand. Like I fucking blows my mind.
I think a lot of that comes like people really don't have time to spend with their kids. Like, you know, if you got to pay for a place to live, you're working 40 hours a week. You don't know what your kid's doing. And like, you know, a lot of times and stuff, they're relying on the schools or like, you know what I mean? The internet or like, you know, music or whatever other outlets and stuff. And they're not really spending time with their kids because people don't have the time because like, you know what I mean? It's expensive to live in the world today.
It's true.
It's expensive to live in the United States.
That's a good point.
It's a different world too. Like I would hate to compete with that. Like if I was a parent, you kidding me? Like it's like if you were in school back then and you were bullied, at least it left you when you left school and you have to worry about it the next day. Yeah. Now it just freaking follows you on social media. People constantly picking on you. No wonder like kids are killing themselves. Like seriously, like I mean, I probably would have too. I was bullied. Everyone was bullied or somebody at some point, you know, gave them.
Imagine it's a video they're passing around and stuff. Everything.
Yeah, but like at least then, like it's like, oh, the day's over.
Right.
I can go home.
Or
right? My tail's between my legs, but I can go home. I'll worry about it tomorrow. Or today, fucking no. Or horrible.
Or if you're gonna fight the kid, right? So the kid's picking on you, you're like, all right, I'll meet him outside of school. I'll punch him in the face. I'll see what I could do, right? At least that ends at the school, right? Now people are videotaping it. Yeah, and it's on World Star Hip Hop, and next thing you know, moms and parents are involved, and there's broomsticks, and there's a whole lot of fucking bad stuff going on these days. I mean, I would.
And nowadays people walk around with guns too. So
yeah, you don't know.
That's always a part of the equation. So
crazy world we live in. It's just I have a 9-month-old kid, and I fear for what it's going to be like when he's done. I hope Facebook and Twitter get abolished, and all this shit goes away.
Well, congratulations, man.
Thank you. It's tough. Yeah. It's a challenge, but. You just gotta do what you gotta do. You know how it is. It is what it is. But Sean, we're approaching the hour mark right here. But for the last few minutes, I want you to just tell everyone where they can get all your information, where they can get your book, where they can hear some of your music and all that good stuff.
Yep, I would say go to Amazon. Amazon has everything. It has all of my books, all of my music. They could also check out some of my music on YouTube as well.
Okay.
And and actually I'm actually in the process of looking for a producer. So I want to come out with some more adult contemporary rap actually. So I'm just looking around for some quality producers, and I already have songs lined up. So it's just a matter of just finding the right fit and getting back in the studio and laying down some nice jams and then releasing them.
Cool.
Nice.
And I'll have my aunt send or my cousin send the information over. I'll pass it over to Ryan to send to you, so you can give it a listen.
Oh, fantastic.
I'm sure you could use. He'll enjoy the feedback one way or another. So, I mean, he's a young kid, so if I was his age, I would love someone of your stature to be able to listen to something like that and be able to give me some kind of feedback one way or another what I got to be doing. You know what I mean? So. We appreciate that.
I'll definitely give them some feedback, and I'll try to share it with a few people that I know.
I like that. Yeah. Appreciate that.
Yeah.
So thank you for coming on. We had Sean XLG Mitchell on the show tonight. If you're watching on Facebook, we will be taking a brief little break, and then we'll be coming back. Mr. Glover, who do we have for the 8 o'clock hour?
We've got Jim Blissett, social worker. And he's the author of the children's book, Whatever Happened to That Boy Who Played Basketball All Night. And then Chad Briscoe, who's a former European professional basketball player who invented the ball by yourself strap with his 9-year-old son. So awesome.
Well, Sean, thanks again for joining us. And
Sean, it was nice to meet you, buddy.
Yeah, we'll have you back on soon. And go out there, get the book, Make America Hate Again. Check it out on Amazon. Facebook. We will be back after these messages. See you.